I just quickly want to go over how I'm thinking of doing this semester. So the first thing is that we're going to do six, what is the word? 6 ICE tasks. And then the second thing is that if you look at the timetable, you'll see that they have removed the LAC sessions from the timetable. So it doesn't mean that there aren't any LAC sessions. It just means that what they've done now is that we have to essentially schedule those LAC sessions ourselves, and then on random dates. So what I'm thinking of doing is then using 6 of this. There's supposed to be 11 LAC sessions. So I'm going to use 6 of those 11 LAC sessions for the ICE tasks. So essentially, I will say, okay, we have to do this ICE task. Use your LAC session to do this ICE task, for instance. Then what I also want to do is after every class, I want to give you a question to do. So that's out of a past paper. I'm talking to you, but I'm also recording, so now I have to talk to the rest of the class essentially as well. So I will then post a question from a past paper on that specific chapter. I'm going to see you guys before the test week 5 times, and we are doing 6 chapters. So I'm going to, every time I see you guys, what my aim is to then finish a chapter, and then we will do the past paper questions outside of class. And the next time I see you, we can then quickly work through the question and then do the next chapter. So also you'll see when I load the chapters, there's a lot less slides on the class one than that there will be on the PDF. It is just because I have condensed the slides a little bit. These chapters that we're going to do in second semester is very big chapters, it's very long chapters. And because you've done this module already, I'm not going to go through every single part of the chapter. I'm just going to highlight the important parts, and then the rest, I mean, you can read through on or go through on your own. Yes, Makoba. Yes. Let's go, Alu.
Ma'am, how many modules how many chapters are we doing again?
6 in total. So we'll do the last 5 chapters. So the 5 chapters that we're doing is in first semester, remember we had the functional areas of management. So the functional areas of management is when we go from top management to middle level management, and the company essentially starts dividing into different departments. We have operations, marketing, finance, logistics, and then the last one is HR. So those are the 5 functional areas of management, and those 5 are the ones we're going to do in second semester, plus a 6th chapter which is not in the textbook, which is called strategic management, that we're going to do separately.
Okay, ma'am, noted.
Okay. 100%. Okay. So, so LAC sessions we've done, and then we have also spoken about the ICE tasks. Then the test. So the pass is already out, so you can just go and check. You can just download the pass. You guys are only writing in October, so the test is there in the second test week. It's around the 21st of October. It's around there. And then the assignment is due the week thereafter. So it's the 1 week is test, the next week is assignment. So we are going to have our assignment discussion nice and early again, so that you can work on the assignment, get the assignment done, and then you're ready to hand it in when it is due. Remember that the dates can always change, so they're not set in stone. So we'll just keep on checking the passes to keep checking the dates. But the test is on chapter 1 to 3, and then the assignment is on chapter 1 to 4. Okay, so you are essentially going to cover chapters 1 to 3 twice, first in the test and then in the okay, that's fine. That's fine, Letsualu. And then we're first going to cover chapter 1 to 3 in the test, and then cover it again in the assignment, and we're just going to add chapter 4 to the assignment, and then chapters 5 and 6 plus 1 to 4 we'll cover in the exam. Okay, 100%. So we are going to start with operations management, and operations management is chapter 11 in the textbook. So what I'm going to do, I don't want to confuse you. I'm going to call it according, or I'm going to name the chapters according to what it is in the textbook. Obviously, if you go and look at the module guide, it will say chapter 1, but I'm not going to say chapter 1 because where's chapter 1? So I'm just going to use the same chapters that we would use in the textbook. So the first chapter is about operations management and what we do with operations management. So in order to actually ensure that we can make money, or that we are making money, that we are achieving the one thing that we really, really, really want in this world, which is a competitive advantage, we have to look at how our product is manufactured. And that is where operations management comes in. So it deals with how the product is planned, so the design of the product, how it is created, and then also how it is distributed. It focuses on making sure that we look after our inventory, so that we do not have too much inventory that it goes off or it's stolen, and that we also don't have too little inventory that where we actually have to stop our manufacturing process because we first have to wait for more inventory to actually arrive. It also looks at the capacity planning. So capacity planning is how much of the product do we have to manufacture. For instance, if you think of ice cream, we are not going to manufacture as much ice cream for the winter months that we will, for instance, manufacture for the summer months. So we have to plan that capacity so that, once again, we do not sit with a product that will go off. Another example that I can use here is like milk. Clover knows exactly how much milk they need to manufacture every day in order to make sure that the previous day's milk is essentially bought by the end of the day, so that the milk does not go sour. I mean, no one is, when I buy milk, I always look for the best before date that is as far away from today as possible. So no one wants milk that is going to expire the next day. And Clover doesn't want to spend all of that money to manufacture so much milk that half of it is not going to be sold. It will just go sour and they have to throw it away. They are literally throwing away money. That's why they have to do capacity planning. We also have to look at production and then supply chain management, ensuring that we get our products to the retailers as fast as possible. How are we going to package our product? For instance, we can't put milk in a brown paper bag. Years ago, you used to get milk in like sachets, like 1 liter sachets. And that didn't work because the sachets would fall, they would burst, they would get torn, and everything would be full of milk. So we have to look at how are we packaging the product, distributing, and where are we keeping the product. So the warehouses, what does our warehouses look like? So what I've done is I actually have a video here that I will show you. Let me just quickly just open it up here. And then this video just talks more about what operations management is.
Okay, let's do this. Today
Okay, let me just quickly share my screen with you.
about operations management. In our day-to-day lives, we routinely deal with both physical goods as well as services. But where do these products or services come from? This is where operations management comes into play. Looking closely at the production of such goods, we're able to take a peek inside the black box, which is the production process. Operations management can be defined as the management of the entire process that transfers inputs into outputs. Outputs are said physical goods or services. Inputs can be material, manpower, and machines. Here's an example from the car industry. The material, metal in this case, is supposed to be reshaped by a machine. This machine, a press in our example, is operated by a machine operator. The metal thus becomes, through the transformation process, a finished component, which is assembled on a car as the output of this process. A central aspect of operations management is the improvement of the transformation processes, which can be accomplished by concepts such as total quality management, Kanban, or total productive maintenance.
Okay, so that video just essentially explained what operations management is, and like I also said, it includes the inputs, the transformation process, as well as the output, which is the finished product, and that is our aim. That's where we want to be. We want to create a product that our customers are actually going to buy. So why do we do operations management? The first one is that it reduces the costs. When we want as much profit as possible. So profit is revenue, which is the money that we've made, minus the cost. If we can reduce the cost, it means that we will actually have more profit. And that is what we want. It increases our revenue because if we have a product that our customers actually want, if we have a product that is not defective, then our customers are going to be happy with our products. We're going to have a high quality product, and that is what we are aiming for. The more products we have that's defective, that means that that the product will be returned, that we have to now go and fix the product, or we have to substitute the product with another product, and that is also going to harm our reputation. The next one is that it reduces the amount of investment. So what happens here is that we are trying to reduce the amount of money that we actually need to manufacture the product. If we can create a better process that will help us to better manufacture the product, it's also going to lead to a reduction in the cost. And the last one is that it provides the impetus. So impetus means something that makes something else happen for new innovation. So by trying to save costs, we can redesign a whole new production plant that will help us to be more innovative. We can maybe start redesigning production plants for other companies as well, or the new production plant will help us to manufacture more products, a higher quality product that will lead to more profit, that will lead to a higher competitive advantage, and that is where we want to be. So when we look at the three different definitions that we have, the first one is operations function. So the operations function is essentially just the utilization of our resources that is used to manufacture the products and to render services. So operations management is not just about a product. It can also be a service. So think of a restaurant, for instance. Then we have operations managers. So these are the personnel that is directly responsible for managing the operations function. And then lastly, we have operations management. So the operations management this involves the operations managers' activities, any decisions that they're making, the responsibilities, that will all help us to execute the operations function. So operations management is managing everything that will help us to actually execute the operation functions, which is using our resources and capabilities to manufacture the products and the services. When we look at the operations management model, what we have here is we have our material, we have our customers, we have the information, we have our HR, equipment, technology, and all of this is our inputs. All of this is what we use to actually determine what product do we want to create, how are we going to create it, where are we going to create it, what is the quality of this product going to be, what is the price of this product going to be. And then from inputs, it goes through to the transformation process. So in the transformation process, this is where we look at the strategies and the objectives of the management team, because this does influence the our outputs at the end. So during the transformation process, we have to focus on the customer's needs. If we have a customer that wants a really good quality product, we have to make sure that the material that we use is actually going to be of a high quality. Otherwise, the customer is just not going to buy the product. It also doesn't help that we have a very high quality material, for instance, but we have machinery that is quite old. So the material might be of high quality, but the production process is not. And that's going to lead to us having a very low quality product, or just a product that is just not going to satisfy the customer's needs. So when we look at the customer's needs, so although the customer's needs do differ, because all of us have different needs, we can kind of sum it up into these 6 elements. So customers either want a high quality product, they want low costs, so they might be very price sensitive. And remember, with a high quality comes a higher price. With a low cost product, you're going to have to sacrifice something. And the thing that you have to sacrifice with a lower cost is most of the time the quality of the product. But people don't really mind. If customers that are price sensitive don't really mind buying a lower quality product. They want a shorter lead time. If you think of Take-A-Lot, no one wants to wait 3 weeks for Take-A-Lot. So you'll rather pay more to have your parcel here earlier or quicker than waiting 3 weeks for something. Then greater adaptability, so flexibility. Can we change it? Can we have it in another color? Lower variability. So some customers, so variability is the opposite of flexibility, essentially, where we don't want the product to vary too much. We want brown bread, white bread, we are done. We are happy with that. We don't want all the other different things. And then we can also want a high level of service. So some customers prefer to have a service with the product. Other customers don't really mind the service. They, for instance, if you think of a drive-through, you go through, pick up your food, and you leave. You don't really want there's not really a lot of interaction between you and the person, as opposed to sitting inside of a restaurant where you have a waiter that brings you something to drink, brings you food, for instance. So that is what the high level of service is about. And then let me just quickly make a note here. Okay. Then the next thing that we're going to look at is the 6 general operations management objectives. So you must be able to discuss this, and this is why I put this in here. So you must be able to discuss this in the exam and also give examples of the 6 different objectives. So What are we aiming to achieve with redesigning our whole operations management system? The first one is that we need to do things right the first time. We can't afford mistakes. And if I say we can't afford it, it literally means it is expensive to make mistakes. It is financially expensive because we have to redo everything again. It can harm our reputation, and it can also harm our competitive advantage. If we want to achieve a competitive advantage with a low quality product, it's just not going to happen. The next one is that we want to do things cost effectively. We want to keep our costs as low as possible, so that we can give a product to the customer that is at a reasonable price. Then we want to do things quickly. So once again, you don't want to wait 3 weeks for Takealot. It's just not going to happen. So we want to get the product to the customer as soon as possible. If you think of fruits and vegetables, you can't, from when you receive it, wait 3 weeks to get it onto the shelves for customers. The veggies and the fruits are going to be old by then, and no one is going to buy it. So once again, it's not cost effective, and it is going to it's just going to lead to more wastage, which is just going to make things a lot more expensive. Then we must be able to make changes quickly. So if something goes wrong, we must be able to change the process so that we can still get the product to the customer, although we might have had to alter the product a little bit. Then, just as much as we have to do things right the first time, we have to do things right every time. You can't have a batch of 100 products and 2 of the products are faulty. Yes, it happens, but that is not what we are aiming for. We want to have a product that looks the same as the other 1,000 products we have just manufactured. And the last one is that we need to be able to do things better. So we want to be better than our competitors. And better can mean anything. It can be a higher quality, it can be a cheaper product, it can be getting it faster to the customers. It can really be anything, but we want to be better than what our competitors are. So this is also in the textbook. So doing things the right time, doing things right the first time. So with this one, I'm not going to discuss this too much, but this can lead to the needs of the customer. So if we actually meet these objectives, all of them can lead to satisfying the customer's needs. And this is what we want. So operations management is about building that bridge, building that route or that path to the customer, and doing it as effectively and as fast as possible. So the next thing we're going to look at is when we continue with the operations management model. So remember, we've spoken about the operations function, and this is primarily concerned with the application of the resources through which the transformation process will provide the output. So the operations function is sitting here. It's primarily concerned with the resources, the inputs that we are going to use in the transformation process. So this model can be used, like I said, for manufacturing as well as for services. It doesn't really matter. And it comprises of 3 components. We have the inputs, transformation process, and the outputs. So when we go into more detail, what are our inputs? This is the resources that is going to be transformed. So if we look at the material, it is the information that we use, who is our client, and it also includes the resources that is required to make the transformation possible. So this is the other resources that we might need in the company. like the equipment and the technology and the labor as well, the human resources. We need labor that will actually help us to switch on the machinery, to transport the product from point A to point B. Then the transformation process is where the physical appearance of the product is going to change. So if you think of milk, inputs, we have got milk that is inside of a truck. None of us goes and buys milk at Clover. We don't take our containers to Clover and buy milk from them there. So what happens is we have our truck, and during the transformation process, the milk is tested, pasteurized, homogenized, and then bottled. That is ready to be transported. So the final product will be a bottled 2-liter or 1-liter milk. So this is where so if we look at a service, this is where the information is changed, added, amended, and then lastly we have our outputs. So this is where we convert the inputs into an output. Okay, so Letoile, what I want you to do quickly for me is I have an activity that I quickly want you to go through. I'll just move my 10 minutes there. So if the output is like tackies, clover, a pencil, or a garden fountain, what are the inputs and what do you think is required inside of the transformation process? So quickly do this. I'll give you like 10 minutes or so to quickly do this activity and then come back when you're done and then we can have a chat about it.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, Letuolu, are you done with it? Okay, 100%. So let's quickly work through it and then we'll check. Okay, so let's take Taki. So if we look at the input, what will go into Taki? So if we go back to what our inputs are, the first one is the resources, so the raw materials. So in Takis, obviously it depends on what type of Takis it is, but we can put in rubber, we can put in, yes, that's all. Okay, are you good? Okay, so we can have rubber, we can have leather, we can have material, so we can have metal as well. Maybe we need the machinery that will actually be able to mold and to stitch the tacky together. Then we also need the other resources that we need is the human resources. We need humans, so we need labor that will actually help us to help us to manufacture the tacky. So someone that cuts out the leather, someone that cuts out the rubber, and then we also need the technology that will make it possible for us to make the tacky. And then what happens in the transformation process? So this is essentially where we take all of that material. And remember what we said about the transformation process. This is where we're changing the physical appearance or the characteristic of the product. So we are taking the meters and meters of material and then we are cutting out the shapes, we are cutting out the rubber, and then we are stitching everything together. So we are essentially transforming the material into a mold. We are transforming the rubber into a sole, and then the output will be the tacky. If we look at the milk, so inputs here can be the milk, the raw milk that we get from the cow. So even the cow can be an input. We can have the farmer, we have the truck that actually takes the milk to Clover. We can have the machinery that the milk is stored in on the farm until the truck arrives. And then during the transformation process, this is where, so this is where the milk is pumped from the truck. It goes through for testing. It's being tested. There's once again, we need labor to help us to test the milk. We need to look at if it's going to be a 1 liter or 2 liter. With the containers, we need the plastic as well. And we need to do the pasteurization, homogenization, and then eventually we'll have the milk. Okay. And then the similar process for the pencil and for the garden fountain as well. Okay, cool. So let's say if you say that you are getting it, then I'm happy. So the next thing we're going to look at is so the next thing that I want us to look at is I have another activity that I want us to do, but this one is based on services, so it's not based on the products. So what happens here is the problem that we have here is spurs. So I'm really going to explain to you what I want you to do, and then we can chat. We can take a break and we can chat about it afterwards. So Spur's current model of serving food is just not working. They're actually busy losing customers because the customers are saying that they are waiting too long to be served, that their food, when they do receive their food, it is already cold. And they've asked us to design a new operations management model for them that will help them to serve their food quicker without customers really noticing. So we don't want customers to go to check their watches and go, "Ooh, that was only 5 minutes from when I ordered." And then we will want to ensure that the food is still warm when it reaches the table. And sometimes the food is burnt. And the customers have also found plastic, hair, and paper pieces of paper in their food. So that is another thing that we have to look at. So the first thing that I want you to think of is, what are the questions that we have to ask first that will allow us to determine what or where the problem is. So what are the questions that we have to ask before we can even start tackling the problem? We first have to look at, or just first, let's first write down the different types of questions we have to ask, and then we can start redesigning a new process for them. Okay, so let's follow. I'm gonna let's take like a 15-minute break, and then you can also think about this so long. And then when you come back, so let's come back at like 10 past. When you come back, then we can quickly chat about Spur. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, my laptop is being slow.
Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, so take like a 15-minute break, and then we can chat about this when you come back. Okay, so let's really chat about Spur. What are some of the questions that you could come up with that will allow us that we can ask that will allow us to determine what the issue is?
Sorry, ma'am, my laptop just did that. Sorry. I
No,
only
that's
have
fine.
one question, and I just asked what are we not doing right, and maybe what can we do to change the problem. And then I also thought of these the things we were doing. Where are they? From the operations management, that we could use this step thing, do things right the first time, do things cost effectively, and do
Mhm.
things quickly, make changes quickly, like to solve the problem. I don't know if it's relevant or not.
Okay. And so where do you think the problem lies? Does it lie with the inputs or does it lie more with the transformation process?
Transformation process.
With the transformation process. Okay. So if we have to look at, so if we're looking at the inputs, so our inputs at Spur, remember Spur is predominantly a service. So we do
Yes.
have our waiters, we have the people,
Waiters, yes,
yeah, the
the
cooks,
chefs.
yeah. We have the ingredients. So it's not that the customers are complaining that the lettuce is maybe old or that the meat doesn't taste nice. Um, so that's why you are correct. It's the problem is not with the inputs. The problem is more with the transformation process. So how do you think? What do we have to change? Or where do you think the problem lies that the food is cold by the time it gets to the customers? Why do you think that happens?
I don't know. Maybe the waiters are slow. I don't know, ma'am.
Okay, so do you think that the food is maybe lying there too long before the waiters come and get it?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I fairly
Um,
want to believe that the chefs finish on time and then they just put them there for the chef to come and collect the food, but then they are busy still attending other customers. You know how one waiter can attend like 5 tables or 6 or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know.
So you think that so maybe the so do we maybe need to work on the chefs when they're done with the food, they have to notify the waiters earlier?
Yeah, I think so. Like,
Okay. Okay, 100. And then the second thing that was wrong is how can we so obviously we've now dealt with that the food is cold, and then how can we get the food to the customers quicker? Like what do you think an issue will be there?
how can we get the food to the customers quicker? They can, when the chef is done, they should like maybe, I don't know, ring a bellish to notify the waiter that come fetch your order. I don't know. It
Hmm.
kept, and then that
Okay.
way it gets to be quicker.
Yeah. And then the fact that the food is burnt, do you think that is more, that's not, is it more on the waiter, more on the chef? What's
No,
happening
that's
there?
definitely the chef. Maybe the
Mm.
stove is like now too high, and by the time you put the food, it's like you don't want to give people raw food at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
Like this,
So
yeah,
what can we do in that instance?
ma'am.
What can we do in that instance? Or how can we change the process there, the
Yeah,
inputs?
I get what you're saying. Um, I don't know. They could probably just, I don't know, ma'am. Let me not lie. I'm blank.
Okay, so we can maybe provide them with more training, or we can maybe have a discussion with them to say like we can't serve food that is burnt. But we also, when we go back to that objectives where we have to do things right every time and do it right the first time, you know, every time we can't serve something to customers because it's essentially defective, that
Yeah.
creates a problem because we already paid for that piece of meat, and now we can't serve it to the customers, so we're essentially throwing it away, which is not very cost effective. So, okay, then the fact that we found that some of the customers found hair and plastic and paper in their food.
Oh, the ghetto. I want to believe they already wear nets, whatever. So I can't even suggest that. So I don't know, ma'am.
And do you think that the problem lies with Spur? Do you think it maybe lies with the suppliers? So that is a question that we have to ask. So is the problem with Spur, or is the problem with the suppliers? Is the hair and the plastic and the paper already in the ingredients when we receive it, or is it, does it happen at Spur restaurants itself?
I think maybe I can hear on myself. I think maybe it's the suppliers, because I don't think it's all Spurs that
Yeah,
experience, you know.
I understand. Okay, but do you understand now that even with, so it's not only about manufacturing, it can also be about a service, and that even with a
Yes,
service, we sometimes have to go and look at the inputs as well as the transformation process.
yes.
Okay, 100. So let's continue. So the next thing we're going to look at is the process types for the manufacturers and then also for the service providers. So I'm also just going to go over this quickly. It's really just something that you can study. So the first thing is that in manufacturing, the classification system is the two things that we use in order to classify the system, is the volume of output, so the amount of products that we are actually manufacturing, as well as the variety of the product. So we have 5 different operational processes. We've got a project, jobbing, batch, mass, and then a continuous process. So what happens is that some companies might manufacture things in bulk, but there's very little variety. So if you think of tomato sauce is tomato sauce. Okay, All Gold makes tomato sauce. Yes, there's maybe that they'll make 2 different kinds of tomato sauce, where other companies might not make as much tomato sauce, but they have a wide variety of different sauces, for instance. So if we look at the variety versus the volume, you will see that a project process has a very high variety and very low volume. So normally projects, if you think of like building a house, every house looks different. And you won't build a lot of houses per month or per week. So you'll normally have a house or 2 houses that you're busy building. Once you are done, you'll only then move on to the next house. If you compare, for instance, a project process to a mass or a continuous here at the bottom, where they are manufacturing 5,000 tomato sauces a day, you can see that a project has low volume but high variety because it is so different. Then the next one is jobbing. So with a jobbing process, so there's a bit more volume, so the output is a bit more, but the variety is also a little bit lower. So if you think of a jeweler, for instance, with this one, there is still variety, but you can essentially have 10 different sizes of the same ring. So you might have 20 different rings or 20 different watches, but you will have a higher volume of those rings or those earrings or those watches. Then the next one is a batch process. So with a batch process, this is where your variety, it's kind of in the middle. You'll see that they have a rather large volume, and they also the variety is also reasonable. So they have an okay variety and an okay amount of volume. So with this one, this is where a limited range of products are manufactured. They will normally manufacture a certain type of couch, and then when that couch is done, they will then change their machinery and they will manufacture another type of couch. You can also think here of cool drink manufacturers. Though, for instance, today they might do Coke, tomorrow they might do cream soda, and the day thereafter they might do Sprite. So everything happens in batches. Then the next one is a mass process. So this is where the volume is quite high, but the variety is lower. So this is, for instance, companies that will manufacture motoring parts for BMW and Audi and Toyota. It is essentially the products are very similar to each other. So the volume is a lot, and there's not really a lot of variety between the one product to the other product. And the last one, the one that has the most amount of volume and the lowest variety, is a continuous process. So think here, for instance, of like a paper manufacturer or electricity, cement. They have very low variety. Cement is cement. Okay, a company might only manufacture 2 different types of cement, but they can't manufacture 1 bag today, 1 bag tomorrow, 1 bag the day after. So they'll manufacture 100 bags a day in order to ensure that they can keep up with the needs of the customers. There's not a lot of variety. If a customer comes to them and says, I want blue cement, they will tend to laugh at you and say, no, that's not going to happen. Cement only comes in one color, and that's that. We do not, there's not a lot of variety with regards to a continuous process. What I've done is I've just also just broken it down and just gave a lot more information on each process that you are more than welcome to go through. Then the next one that we're going to look at is service providers. So remember, like we said, operations management is not just about the manufacturing or the products. It is also about a service. So even a service can have an operations management strategy. So the 3 categories that we have there is professional services, service shops, and then a mass service. So professional services are, for instance, like a dentist or a doctor. If I show you this slide, you'll be able to understand it a bit better. So dentists, doctors, attorneys, they don't see a lot of people every day if you compare them to the other services, but they have a very high variety. So what that means is that every patient that they see is not there for the same thing. Every single patient is different. Every case is also different. So a professional service is based on a high client contact basis because they are essentially only working with people. There's not a lot of products attached to this service. The client will usually be present when the service is delivered, which makes sense. I mean, if you go to the doctor, you are there in person, unless now that you want to do it virtually, but you are still there. So the doctor can't really do something without you as the patient being present. It is very people focused. And then the next one is the service shop. So a service shop is, for instance, like a bank or even like Varsity College. So the characteristics of a service shop is in between professional services because it is quite people focused, and mass services. So it has characteristics of both mass and professional. So a service shop, like I said, is for instance like a bank or like Varsity College. As much as you deal with people, you also have different processes. So if you ask a question about SUPs, there's a process that has to be followed, and that process will be explained to you. So if the next student asks about SUPs, they will get the same answer. The process is very standardized. But the service is changed to actually adapt to the customer's needs. So we have a black and white process. This is the process, but I can adapt my service according to the needs of the customer. I'm not adapting the process. I can't tell you that SUPs are only happening next year, and then next student I say, no, the SUPs are now in September, for instance. Okay. The SUPs will be the same for every single student, regardless of who the student is. Then the last one is a mass service. So this is where you have very, very limited contact. If you think of the post office, for instance, you don't have to be at home when the postman brings your mail. Yes, there's still a service. They deliver a service, but there's very, very limited client contact, and the service is very standardized. You take the post, you sort it, deliver it to the address, and that's it. Okay, it's not really going to change from one house to another house, and it also happens on a very large scale. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the operations design. So when we look at operations design, we are essentially looking at two different things. The first one is a product design, and the second one is the process design. So the product design is where we are designing with the product and the service with the customer in mind. So we are thinking about who is our customer, who do we want, what does the person that is going to buy this product, what does that person look like? And then we design the product or the service around that. And then the process design is where we design the operations process that is actually going to help us to manufacture the product or the service. So the aim is to provide a product or a service that's going to satisfy the customer's needs, and the design will help us to achieve the objectives in terms of quality or cost, lead time, adaptability, reliability, as well as service. Okay, so I have another activity, but let's follow. What you can do is you can do this activity at home. I'm not going to ask you to do it now. I think what we can do is we can maybe do this one as an ICE task, this activity. So I will just post it. I'll post an announcement, and then we can do this one as an ICE task. So, and this one is very similar to the one about Spur, where with this one, it's just that the tables weren't cleaned. There was spilled cool drink. They didn't have all the ingredients. So we can do this one as an ICE task. Okay. I'll post it afterwards. Then the next thing we're going to look at is the operations planning and control. So with the operations planning and control, this is all the activities that we need that is going to actually put the operational process into action efficiently on a continuous basis while, and we said that the first thing that we want to do is we want to meet the needs of the customers so that we can get a competitive advantage. So this is an active process. So what that means is that this is a continuing process where we actively have to keep on looking at what are our customers' needs and how can we change our activities, or how can we change the operational process to continuously meet the needs of the customers. So once again, I've already said this, but the operations manager is responsible for ensuring that all the performance objectives are being met. And we just spoke about the performance objectives, which is quality, cost, the lead time, adaptability, reliability, and the service. Okay. So the thing is here that we also have to look at is the quality. So if we look at the quality, remember that quality is the term quality, or the definition for quality will be different for everyone. We said earlier in the chapter that if we have customers that are price sensitive, that they will sacrifice a little bit of the quality for the price. And the higher the quality, the more price insensitive a customer is, because they are more concerned about the quality of the product than what they will really be, than what they'll be about the price. The problem that we have here is that we need to ensure that the quality, or the perceived quality, that the customer sees is actually what we have tried to do. So there's no use that we have the most expensive material, the most expensive machinery, the most expensive everything, but the customers just don't really see the quality inside of the product. Then we would have wasted all of that money, and they still just won't buy the product. When we look at the steps in the quality control process, the first thing is that we have to define the quality characteristics of the product or service. So what are the characteristics that's going to define the quality? Is it going to be the fact that it has a guarantee? Is it the fact that it's made out of leather, that it is indestructible? Then we have to measure the quality characteristics. We have to set the standard for each quality characteristic. So remember that if we are looking at quality, we will have a certain standard, and the material has to meet that specific standard. Otherwise, we are just not going to use it. Then we have to control the quality against the set standards. We have to identify and rectify any causes of poor quality. So what happened? Do we have a supplier that is just really not delivering any good quality? Do we maybe have to change our supplier? And the last step is that we have to look at continuously improving on our quality. Remember, we said that quality is our main goal. And if we want quality, we need to ensure that we are continuously giving the customers a high quality product. If, for instance, one of the objectives that we have is that we want an eco-friendly product, we have to go and look at the characteristics that determine if this product is eco-friendly or not. We will have certain standards. So, for instance, it isn't manufactured by slavery, for instance. It's made from recycled materials. So we'll have certain categories or certain boxes that we have to tick that is going to make this product eco-friendly, for instance. So when we look at continuously improving our operations process, we also have to look at how can we improve our performance. And this is done through performance measurement. So there are 4 types of performance standards that we have. We have our historical standards. So this is where we look at our current standard and compare that to our previous standards. Then we have our target performance standards. This is where we compare our current standards according to predetermined standards. And then the competitors' performance standard, this is where we look at our competitors. We compare our standard according to theirs. And the last one is the absolute performance standard. This is where we compare it against a theoretical. So it's where we want to be. So a maximum achievable standard. So our standard might be here, but we really, really, really want to see ourselves there. So it can also almost be like a vision that we have about our company or about our standards. It's somewhere where we still want to be. We are aiming to actually get there. Then if we look at the last of the operations improvement, So when we look at continuously improving our operation system, the first one is we can have a breakthrough improvement or we can have continuous improvement. So the breakthrough improvement, this doesn't happen regularly. This is, for instance, where a company will close and they will redo everything. They will restructure their whole process. They will replace any machinery that is old, or they will replace the current machinery with machinery that is more eco-friendly, or they can manufacture more products. And then we can also have the continuous improvements. So the continuous improvements is where, this is also known as the Kaizen improvement, but this happens on a smaller scale. So what happens here is we will only replace one machine, for instance, for now, but we won't close the factory to actually replace that machine. So we'll replace a small machine, then we'll save money, then we will replace the next one, save money, replace the next one. So why it's called Kaizen? Kaizen is just a Japanese term for continuous improvement. Okay. Then when we look at the different types of failures, so what are the things that can actually go wrong? The first one is a design failure. So this is where something was just designed wrong, or it's inadequate, it doesn't work with the product, it doesn't fit into the mold, for instance. We can have facility failures where one of our machines break down, or our factory burns down, for instance. Staff failures where our staff has made a mistake. They didn't read the job card properly, or they switched off the machine by mistake, for instance. And then we can also have our supplier failures. So let me just fix that mistake. So it's supposed to be do not provide. So this is where our supplier fails to provide us with the raw materials or the inventory on time. And the last one is our customer failure. So this is where the customer uses the product incorrectly. So there's nothing wrong with us. We did everything properly, but somehow the customer used the product incorrectly than what they were supposed to, and now there's a problem. So if you look at customer failures, think, for instance, of a wool jersey that you are supposed to hand wash or dry clean, and the customer throws it in with their other washing. Okay, it will only shrink, and then they will be upset about it. They will bring it back, and we will say to them, but didn't we tell you that you are not supposed to put it in the washing machine? You're supposed to hand wash it, and that is where everything in the process essentially went wrong. So nothing went wrong in the input and the transformation process. It actually went wrong in the output, and this will be the customer's fault. The last thing that we're going to look at is total quality management. So what total quality management is it looks at everything. So it is essentially about not only looking at operations management, but also looking at how do we market this product? How much money do we put into this product? We are trying to meet the needs and expectations of our customers. And like I've said, this covers all the parts of the business. So every single employee knows that they play a part in this company, that they are important. Even in, for instance, someone in HR that is not directly involved in the manufacturing process will also be aware of the part that they play inside of the company. Total quality management is also about doing things right the first time, and it also helps, or it also focuses on establishing a continuous process for improvement. So we are continuously trying better so that we can keep on satisfying the needs of our customers. Okay, So let's wallet. That's it. What I've done is I've loaded a case study onto VC Learn. It's underneath more resources and lecture slides. So I want you to work through this case study as well, and then just answer the questions, and we will then discuss these answers in the next class. Okay, so that's it for today.
Okay, ma'am. And then is the ICE also due on the next class?
You know what? I don't think let's quickly look at the dates. I don't think we should make it the next class. Let's make it the 13th of August.
13th. Okay, noted.
13th of August, and then that one will be this activity that I've loaded. The activity on the slides.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, 100%. So I'll just put everything in the announcement now. And then that's it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Enjoy the rest of your day.